guys, this is Eléonor and Wei introducing here Benjamin Arabov, son of Jacob, here at the Geneva store during the last day of the Geneva Watch Days. And we're super excited to have Benjamin between both of us to ask him a couple of questions of actually starting with how is it to work with your father on a daily basis in such a creative and interesting companies with super high values?
Well, first, good to see you guys, Wei and Eléonor. Always a pleasure.
Pleasure's ours.
So how's it to work with Jacob?
Yeah, with Dad.
Well, it's one of the most gratifying, but also one of the most stressful things as part of my day.
Can relate.
Can relate because I have my dad and I have my way.
Yeah. You know, it's something that's like on a daily basis so unexpectedly because the level of creativity and innovation that Jacob is pushing out on a daily basis. You know, like, but Jacob and I have a great relationship because he has so many ideas, but he often needs good people around him to execute those ideas. And oftentimes, like, he calls me the producer for his ideas, which is something I'm grateful for and something I take to heart. So any new projects that we work on, it's a constant back and forth, constant like figuring out what the best next set of action is, whether it's on the creative side or the marketing side. And yeah, we have a really good back and forth.
Amazing. You know, one of the things that you seem very focused on is really communicating the watchmaking authenticity of Jacob. We had an amazing trip together. We went to many of your partners, and I say partners because they really consider it to be a partnership. So we went over to Concepto to visit Valerian. We went over to Sector Horlogerie to visit Emma. And what they said is you guys really pushed them. Why? First question, why is it important for you to expose this really true watchmaking authenticity? And second of all, tell us about that relationship where you're really pushing them to the next boundary.
Sure. So I think the importance of the authenticity part is because we're a relatively young watch brand. We've been creating watches only for 22 years with the start of 2000 with the quartz movement, and really the first 8 to 10 years was focused on that collection, which was just quartz. So when we're talking about truly high watch complication, it's only about 12 years, which is like a baby in the industry. So for us, showcasing our innovation when it comes to high watchmaking is a key element for us right now and our success, because we want to show that even though we're a young watch brand, we're making progress, we're pushing the needle, we're being innovative, we're being creative. And even though we're young, we want to show that we're doing the best that we can.
Amazing.
You just said that you claim to be a baby watch brand because you started only 20 years ago, but one of the biggest players right now of the industry are pretty much the same age. These brands right now are trying to develop a better understanding of what the watch industry is right now because it's the hottest topic that's happening. But you started with a collecting family, which was more on a wrapper and mainstream, and now you're shifting towards more complicated pieces to the highest collecting level. What's your take on that position within the watch industry?
Yeah, I would say our evolution to watches have been unique because primarily my father Jacob started in the jewelry industry. He first did jewelry for the first 20 years, and the evolution to watches became a little bit natural because his customers were asking for it, but also his passion changed from jewelry and watches. And I always think like in anyone's life, their passion could change multiple times, and for him, his evolution was, okay, I'm going to first focus on jewelry. I'm going to be the best in jewelry, and then I'm going to shift to watches. So before he got into watches, he had this huge hip hop community that supported him, that went to him, that
shouted him out in so many different like songs. You know?
Yeah, right. Shouted him out,
right.
And he really became the go-to person for jewelry in New York. And then as he entered into watches, he came to all of his customers and said, "Hey, I developed this watch." And they kind of like naturally took it to the next level. And some of the natural and organic strategies that he implemented back then, a lot of brands are using today.
Yes, totally agree.
So really full circle. And you know, shifting to the collector's base is something that is more delicate and more something that we have to be more precise about. because it's a different level of focus,
Right.
where that community is focused on like the aesthetics and the look and feel of it, where the watch collectors are focused on completely different aspects of it.
Right. I mean, but it's a really interesting point. It's because, you know, you guys already kind of own that hip hop community, right? And it's so funny, you see all the kind of dusty older brands are going after that community. So from a strategy perspective, once you win over the collector community, you still have, then you have both. And that's a really unique and very powerful position to be in, you know?
Yeah, for sure. When we do that, we would be in a different category for
Yeah,
sure.
totally.
Because a lot of our celebrity activations are still very organic. We don't spend like millions of dollars on it. They're friends of the brand. They love the brand. They respect the brand. They love Jacob also. So we're in a very unique and positive position.
Phenomenal. You've also had a hand and also in creating watches as well. Can you tell us about one of the watches that you created and what that experience was like and the satisfaction you got from that?
Yeah. So before I entered the brand, I was running a service-based business, and I didn't really need to utilize any creativity when it comes to like designing or anything like that. So I didn't know I had the skill for it, but being the son of Jacob, which is I consider to be a creative genius, I guess I had some genes from that. So as I entered, I spent 6 months and 1 year kind of shadowing him and understanding the process of creating such masterpieces. And what I really enjoyed was understanding or seeing the initial idea and how it comes about. It's a lot simpler than we think. It could be, watching a movie or looking at something, or traveling somewhere, and then an idea pops up in his head, and then the idea is born. Everybody's brain works differently, processes things differently, and for me, it's an honor, and I'm grateful to see that process. And it helped me understand that it's a lot simpler than we think, but you have to have the creative energy for it. So the first collection that I designed personally was the Astronomia Metaverso collection, where we wanted to design one watch, each piece unique, to represent each planet of our solar system. And the concept that we created, which was for the first time, is a dome-shaped metal that sits above the Astronomia solar movement, but below the sapphire crystal. It's the first time we did it, and the reason why we decided to do that instead of like modifying the existing Astronomia solar was because we wanted each planet to have a strong presence within each watch. So, coming up with the dome concept took months, but it's a concept that we're going to keep using, for the next 10 years, which I'm super proud about.
Eléonor?
When it comes to obviously creativity and the execution of it, you create pieces of art to be worn on the wrist, and you were mentioning that your father started us as a jeweler, and not only the jewelry side of things, but the crafting, the technicality, and the savoir-faire of using gems in your watches is prominent in most of your collection. And you were just talking about the solar system and how in most of your pieces you craft and shape each stone into a solar planet. Can you explain a little more about the integration of diamonds and precious stones, and how most of your pieces have to be cut and shaped one by one to a specific and technical level?
Yeah, it's funny. Jacob is a true jeweler at heart because
I love how you say Jacob and not Dad.
I try. Also, I call my mom Angela when
Really?
I used to just call her mom. Yeah, in public,
Right.
In private, mom.
Right.
Yeah, so Jacob is a true jeweler at heart, and it's like anytime we create a new watch, and it's first time out of production, prototype, everybody's just blown away about it, everybody's excited about it, and Jacob looks at it like with kind of like a crooked eye and goes, how do we add diamonds to this thing? And I'm like, enjoy the beauty of it. Like, we just worked 3 years to develop this thing. But that's the way his mind thinks. He's like always thinking about the next thing. But first, like, how do we add diamonds to this thing? So it's just funny to see kind of like where his mind at, and
Right.
and really like that's how he started the business with diamonds and jewelry.
He even created his own cut, right?
Yes, the Jacob cut.
Jacob cut.
The Jacob cut has 288 facets. It has a patent actually, funny enough, and it's in the majority of our Astronomia watches. But yeah, you know, he's an expert when it comes to that, when it comes to the craftsmanship and the quality of it. So, you know, he has also a personal touch with most of the watches that are coming out of production. He personally QCs it,
Really?
if you could believe it. Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah.
I love that.
For the watches that don't have like a set process, and if, you know, let's say sometimes we buy quantities for many watches, then he doesn't because he checks one and it's the same. But he's rejected a lot of watches personally. He sits there with the loop and checks.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So he's a bit like Philip Stern listening to every minute repeater. Patek.
For sure, yeah.
You know, one of the things I really like about Jacob is its openness. I mean, you're really serious about watches, but you're also really, you know, genuinely curious about what's happening in contemporary culture. For a while, it seems like everyone's trying to figure out how to integrate NFTs into watches. I think what you guys have done for your NFT program is probably the coolest and most advanced, you know, program so far. Tell us a bit about that, Matt.
Sure. So the NFT project was an initiative that I started about a year ago or so, and it's an initiative that we started because we wanted to continue our path of innovation and entering into spaces that haven't been entered before, similar to what my father's been doing over the course of the past 40 years now, when he entered into the jewelry, how he was creating jewelry, and then a disruptive design like the 5 time zone watch, and then into the high complication aspect. So we wanted to enter into space that hasn't been entered before in the watch space, or really the luxury space, and we wanted to create not only a beautiful collection around it, but a narrative, but a great narrative behind it. And our hope is that we have a successful project and create a great case study for others to learn and enter into the industry.
So Ben, I'm really interested in the NFT program that you've created. So if I'm not mistaken, it's 8 different watches, all of which represent one of the planets in the solar system. The first 5 are physical watches, last 3 are digital watches.
Yes.
I mean, how does that work, and are people actually buying the digital watches? You know?
Yeah, so I think that creating a digital focused collection is something that has been a request for many of our aspiring clients, because there's people around the world that are interested in purchasing something from us but can't afford it. So that's a good entry point because it's not going to be expensive, and many of our watches are considered works of art. So people are really excited about owning something from Jacob & Co. that they could, you know, put on their desk screen or put it up as a piece of art on their wall.
Is it like a sort of digital painting in your house?
Yeah,
as well, right?
digital painting, yeah.
Right.
And the key element, the access that we're giving to people who participate in our NFT projects, more so on the physical watches side, is the collectors that purchase the watch are going to be able to co-design a collection with Jacob.
Wow.
So that's a really exciting element for the collectors. They're going to be able to go back and forth with Jacob,
Right.
and co-design future collection.
That's really cool. Let me ask you also, since we're talking about sort of what's happening in contemporary culture, talk to me about the Bitcoin watch.
Right. So we created the Bitcoin watch to celebrate the success of the cryptocurrency that's been happening. Really cool design. We have a motherboard base plate that's rotating counterclockwise. We have the dial, which is represented from the fan that's used in computers to mine Bitcoin.
Right.
we have a rocket ship that's flying to the moon, because like in cryptocurrency they have this saying, it's like, to the moon.
Right.
And a really cool piece of detail of the watch is like the base plate is moving counterclockwise, where the movement itself is moving clockwise. Yeah, it's been a really exciting collection. We launched it not at the best time, but it's still a collection that completely sold out, even though like Bitcoin was crashing or is crashing.
Well, or people look at it also as a buying opportunity for Bitcoin as well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And you were saying to me like that watch has been super successful for you guys.
Yeah.
Wow.
We completely sold out of the whole collection.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Eleanor?
In the end, all of your watches or all of the collection have a history, they have a narrative behind it. And I've heard that the next one coming up is pretty much related to the movie industry and movie culture, and a movie that's very fond to your father, to Wei, to a lot of actually a multi-cross generation, which is The Godfather. Can you tell us a little bit about the actual watch and how you got to create, not only introducing the music, the soundtrack of the movie, but what is it? What's the relation between The Godfather and Jacob to some extent?
Yeah, so the Godfather Collection has been a very successful collection of ours. We launched it in 2019.
Right.
And that idea came from Jacob's passion for the Godfather movie. He first watched that movie when he was 15 years old, the first year he entered into the United States. As a kid from Russia, Uzbekistan. So for him, it was an eye-opening experience because he's never seen anything like that. He never had access to those type of films.
Right.
And this is late 1970s. So for him, like he learned so much. That was his education, basically.
For a lot of us, yeah.
Yeah, it taught him family business. It
Yes.
taught him values. It taught him respect. And since then, so many years ago, like. It's like it was a constant memory of his. And he loves to create what his passion is, and that movie is one of his passions. So he created a collection. We have a partnership with Paramount Pictures for it. We have the license for the logo, for the music, and he created just a beautiful masterpiece with an integrated music box, triple axis tourbillon. And because of that success and the celebration of the 50-year anniversary of The Godfather, we're creating a watch dedicated just for the anniversary.
That's awesome. And where are you going to hold the launch for this?
We're having an event in Sicily at the end of October.
So you're like Michael Corleone. You're going to the old country.
Yes, we're going to the old country. Yeah, we're organizing a beautiful lunch at the church where Michael Corleone got married.
No way.
Yeah, and we're organizing a beautiful dinner at the house where Michael was staying.
That's incredible. The actual locations.
The actual locations.
That's incredible.
You should have your parents renew their vows in that church.
I have a question. One of the things I admire so much about your dad is that at 17 years old, he basically went out and he became the breadwinner. He supported his family. And when I see the dynamic between you and him, I find it so charming because, you guys are so close and you're best friends in addition to being father and son. What are about work ethics? What about family values? What is, would you say is the most important thing you've learned from him?
Well, because of the upbringing that he had to support his whole family at such a young age. He has 4 sisters and parents that he had to support. They migrated from Russia to New York. They didn't know any English. They had zero money, and he didn't have it easy at all. And he wanted to make sure that we understand. We also didn't have it easy, even though that he had the success that he had.
Right.
So we were disciplined with the mindset of being humble, putting your head down, working hard, and not taking anything for granted. And that's something that we're grateful for. It wasn't easy because he's a very tough man. For those who've worked with him or dealt with him, but he raised my brothers and I in a very disciplinary way, where we turned out all right.
Yeah, I would definitely say so, and like I said, I love the relationship that you have as well. You probably say he's a tough man because he had to start from nothing, right? And probably there's always a fundamental concerned, it's like, I have to keep this going and make sure my family's taken care of, right? And that's, I would imagine anyone that has a tough personality, that's the motivation. But there's so much warmth from him as well. And I think that that's the thing I find the most interesting about this brand, is that from the outside, you look at it and you can be intimidated because, things are very expensive. It's super glamorous. You guys are doing events at like Billionaire in like Sardinia, but in the end, it's a really nice family enterprise, and I think that's and you guys are best friends, and I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Eléonor?
And you're
Thank you.
driven and passionate, and I think it's probably, it would be easy to say that it's the recipe to a successful business, but when you love what you do, when you do it well, when you're passionate about it, some people may like it or not, but you're doing it right and following each of the steps in education and learning yourself, but also teaching others. And you're just bringing, in my opinion, but I think Wei agrees 100% with me in saying that, is that you're bringing something new to the watch industry. And even though it's been 22 years, right now it's becoming something more of a new vision, that not that it was not accepted before, but because now people are expecting to see something different, and you cannot reinvent a watch, you cannot reinvent the wheel basically, but you're bringing something new through your vision, your passion, and you're doing it the right way. So, bravo for that.
What he's built is truly,
part of it.
truly legendary, and my only hope is that I could continue on his legacy for generations to come.
That's awesome. I'm sure you will, sir. Pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.